What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Wednesday, May 27th. Back in the saddle here. Wanted to hit a few newsy notes and then talk about Lane Kiffin's media availability yesterday at the SEC spring meetings in Destin, Florida. So first, let's get one baseball item out of the way. Maverick Rizy, sophomore pitcher, coming off of his sophomore year, is entering the transfer portal. He will be the first member of the team to enter the transfer portal. He will not be the last. I think when all is said and done and you look at LSU's 34-man roster this past season, we may be looking at 10 or 12 guys who may remain on this baseball team. I want to do a deeper dive into that later in the week. But I did want to just say that, look, Maverick Rizy, it didn't work out this year. He was really, really bad. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. He did lead the 2025 team in appearances as a freshman, team that won the national championship. He did contribute to that. He is a draft-eligible sophomore. You wonder if someone in one of those, mid-teens rounds, 13th, 14th, 15th round, would take a shot on a big, tall guy with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and maybe that's his path, is to take just a few bucks, or does he want to go transfer somewhere else and try to make a name and try to rebuild his career? In any event, Maverick Rizy leaves LSU as a national champion. No one can take that away from him. Best of luck to him, but at the same time, we can all patently agree, he just was not good for LSU this year, and I believe this was probably a mutual decision, and I think there will be many more of those in the coming days and weeks. Moving on to football, so Lane Kiffin, like all coaches, was able to, this is not media days. This is not the media days that will come up in July or August ahead of the football season. This is the SEC spring meetings. And generally, each football coach has sort of an informal media session at the podium with a lot of members of the media from all around the Southeastern Conference and the nation. Lane Kiffin gave his first real public comments about his hiring of Ed Orgeron. And he said what a lot of people had alluded to that we talked about. It was time to bring Ed back. The rules about having an unlimited number of people who can recruit off campus, that's what Coach O's job is going to do. Coach O is going to recruit Louisiana. Coach O is going to coach some defense. And look, I know in my circle, there are people on both sides of this, right? There are people who love it, people who hate it. And I understand the way it ended for Ed as the head coach here. It was messy. And I was never an Ed O guy in terms of getting the head coaching job. I thought the process that brought him to LSU as the head coach was incredibly flawed. However, he is responsible, to whatever degree you want to believe, for the greatest college football team of all time residing in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for Joe Burrow and all of the folks who were on that team, bringing us all the joy that they brought us. I think to pay Ed Orgeron $100,000 to come back, coach some D-line, not even in an official capacity, go out with the LSU polo on, sit in every mom's kitchen, every grandma's kitchen and eat and recruit. Perfect. Love it. Great. Don't give him any additional responsibilities. Don't give him a bunch of media availability, right? I'm not interested in that. Just you go be Ed Orgeron in the places where LSU needs you to be Ed Orgeron, and don't be anything else in the places that we don't need you to be. But again, I like the fact that Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock seem to be forward-thinking, and Lane Kiffin seems to not have an ego when it comes to these types of decisions. And good for Ed Orgeron, too, for that matter. Not that we didn't know this already. Ed famously was humble enough to say, you paying me $19 million to walk away? What door do I walk out of, right? And good for Ed Orgeron to say, you know what, I love Louisiana, I love LSU. It's a rare opportunity for me to come back. I'll come back. One of the other things Lane Kiffin mentioned that I think is newsworthy is that Sam Levitt ran 21 miles an hour. You know, they had the GPS deal strapped to him or whatever. And look, we've talked about this coming back from the Liz Frank injury. Straight line running is generally the thing that you can do first. It's cutting, it's moving, it's lateral things can sometimes be a problem, but it's great to know that we're not even at June 1st yet. And Sam Levitt seems to be where he is in his recovery. I barring any setbacks, Sam Levitt seems like he's going to be a full go in August when this thing rolls around, maybe even in July for, you know, some work with the receivers and some passing drills and those types of team things. So all signs pointing up positively there on Sam Levitt, and certainly that's welcome news, because if any other quarterback other than Sam Levitt is taking the first snaps of the year against Clemson, I think the ceiling of this team is a little bit different. I certainly think with a healthy Sam Levitt, the sky might be the limit for LSU, and so that is good news. So of course Lane had Q&A, and coming off the Vanity Fair piece, there was some, I don't want to say moments of tension, but there were some questions asked, right? Because this is not just LSU affiliated media. This is, you know, media from all over the place. And one of the things that Lane Kiffin was asked by the Orlando Sentinel was why he chose LSU over Florida. And he said Florida was a great program, a lot of tradition. Obviously, his family visited there before they visited LSU, and he said, look, I had to make a decision. He said it wasn't really about Florida. It was about LSU, and it was about the opportunity that LSU provided. And so that was his answer. So now allow me to editorialize here for just a minute. If the Lane Kiffin era at LSU works out, and I believe it will, I think LSU owes, and LSU and their fans owe some gratitude, and I know this is going to be tough, to one Nick Saban. We know what Nick Saban told Lane Kiffin. We know Nick Saban told Lane Kiffin LSU is the best job in America. And we know Nick Saban has sort of publicly and privately said in various forms that he probably should not have left LSU. Lane Kiffin likes the sun. He likes the beach. He likes to hang out down there. Lane Kiffin was taking this Florida job before A&M did LSU a favor that night in Tiger Stadium and Scott Woodward pulled the plug on Brian Kelly. Once LSU's job came open and he became LSU's number one target, Lane Kiffin has openly said the first two or three people he asked about this were Nick Saban and Pete Carroll. And Nick Saban told him point blank, this is the best job in America. You'd be stupid not to take it. And, and I'm paraphrasing that. I obviously wasn't privy to the conversation. So I understand why a Florida reporter would ask that. I understand why they feel like maybe they came in second and maybe they shouldn't have. But I really think this was all about LSU. It was about the opportunity at LSU, and it was about Nick Saban's, or Lane Kiffin's trust of Nick Saban and what Nick Saban said about LSU. So speaking of Florida, next item I would like to get to. So John Sumrall, former Tulane coach, now the new Florida coach, he took the podium as well. And as you know, he coached Tulane in the college football playoff against Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin didn't coach Ole Miss. And John Sumrall took a shot at Lane Kiffin and also patently, outright, comically lied. So John Sumrall was asked, and look, first step up, I like John Sumrall. I think he did a good job at Troy, did a really nice job at Tulane. More power to him. He had his choice of the Florida or Auburn jobs. Maybe if things timeline-wise would have broke a little bit different, maybe even the Ole Miss job. So this is not me going after a Tulane coach or me going after John Sumrall. Did I want John Sumrall to be LSU's coach? Not really, not important. John John Summerall was asked what would have happened if Tulane would not have allowed him to coach in the college football playoff. And I'm paraphrasing. John Summerall said he would have remained at Tulane and turned down Florida. This is comically untrue. It's there's just no world where you say, I'm going to remain at Tulane and coach. He said he would coach his team. They had an opportunity to play for a championship. They had no opportunity to play for a championship. They were the number 12 seed or 11 seed, whatever they were. They got their doors blown off by Ole Miss. They were not in a position to play for a championship. He coached one additional game there, and they got their doors blown off. It's comic, and of course then he said, well, I'm not taking a shot at anybody else who didn't do that. Yes, you are. And it's fine. And look, I get it, right? Every coach at their new place wants to bring some bravado to that place, right? You want to bring some pride. You want to bring something new. You want to bring something different. John Summerall finds himself at a unique crossroads. He coached against Ole Miss when Lane Kiffin didn't. He took the job that Lane Kiffin didn't. So, of course, he's going to take a shot at Lane and be pro-Florida while also trying to be pro-Tulane on the way out. Tulane was never going to tell him not to coach the team, first of all. He said he asked the players at Tulane if they wanted him to coach the team. They said yes, of course. What are they going to say? Let's have some assistant coach us against Ole Miss. They know. They know they weren't winning that game. I know sports and pride, and you're going to go. And I don't mean it as a knock against Tulane's players. This was not the same thing as Lane leaving for a conference rival, Lane not being allowed to coach the playoffs by Ole Miss, Lane having a contract extension on his desk at Ole Miss for weeks and weeks and weeks that he didn't sign. There is every reason why Ole Miss did not allow Lane Kiffin to coach in the playoffs, and there's every reason why Tulane did, and it's a comical untruth that John Summerall told yesterday in saying he would have remained at Tulane and he would have turned down $9 or $10 million a year at Florida to coach one game in Oxford in the playoffs and get beat 41-17 or whatever the heck they got beat by. It's ridiculous, and no one should pay any lick of attention to it, and it will have no bearing on John Summerall's career at Florida. He may go on and have a great career. It's just comically untrue what he said there. I want to leave on this note, though. One of the things that I think we're all learning right now as LSU fans is just how vilified Lane Kiffin is in all of these other places, right? The national media seems to go after him a little bit. Obviously, Ole Miss people have a vitriol for him. And when I say Ole Miss people, I mean administrators, fans, reporters, a vitriol that hasn't really been seen in a while. I think Florida's folks seem a little slighted that he did not take their job. And I think when you couple that with what's currently going on with Will Wade and his return to Baton Rouge and his attempts to build a roster and the national media types who want to sort of come at him and assassinate him for things that other coaches also do. And then you've already got Kim Mulkey sitting in a chair, on LSU's campus. And we know Kim doesn't hold back about things when she's asked questions. I tried to go back and sort of think about any one single college athletic department having this many lightning rod type coaches. And I can't think of one off the top of my head, right? I can think of some who might have had a very lightning rod football coach or a very lightning rod basketball coach. And I know there may have been some overlap at a few places, but in this era of social media and, the entire way that the college sports landscape is covered now, I can't think of any one athletic department that has been sort of in the eye of this villain role as LSU is right now. And my advice to anyone listening to this podcast who loves LSU is to just embrace it. You have the right coaches now in all of these sports. Jay Johnson, Jay Clark, Kim Mulkey, Will Wade, Lane Kiffin, Beth Tarina made a super regional, right? Like, just embrace it. Focus on LSU. Focus on your fandom. Focus on your donations. Focus on what you can do to make LSU the best athletic department in America. And don't worry about all this outside noise. And don't worry about being the villain. Embrace being the villain. And we're going to have so much more on this because obviously LSU's baseball and softball seasons have ended way sooner than any of us would have thought, which is bad for someone who's hosting a podcast. But we're going to do some creative things. I do want to talk in the summertime, big picture, college football stuff, increase of the playoffs, all of that sort of stuff, conferences battling it out for how many teams should be in the playoffs. We're going to talk about all of that. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and, turn on your notifications. You'll be notified whenever we drop a new episode. It won't be daily right now because there's just not enough news to go daily. As always, be good to one another. Please enjoy your summer. Get out, enjoy some sunlight, take a walk, get out by a pool, get out by the beach if you're so inclined. Be good to one another. As always, boot up, and always, 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 go Tigers.